Hello, this quick video will show you how to set up a brand new schema within Kubit's data modeler. Simply click New Schema and a new one will be created with an orange New tab here. Simply name your schema. In this case, we're going to call it Streaming New. These schemas will now have their own personal URL. You can set the sampling default rates, and once you're done with it, if you decide maybe you want to turn this schema off at some point, you can simply disable it here. Then you're going to establish your connection. In this case, we're using MySQL, but as you can see, we have several other warehouses available with their own unique connection parameters. Now I'll go in and start to build my data model. I'll simply open this add table, and you can see I've got a bit of a browser here with all of the different tables assigned into this particular database that I've connected to. First, I'm asked to add my fact table. So this is going to be the table that has all of the corresponding events. In this case, it's fairly well named Streaming Fact. I'll go ahead and click it and say confirm. And very quickly, we'll pull back all of the different columns that are included within that particular fact table. I then want to go in and say which of these columns is my event. In this case, I can do a quick search and there is an event name column, and you can see that it's been mapped above. I also need to designate my timestamp, which in this case there are several. So I actually just want to go ahead and pick this one, TS. And then finally, the actual date field. What is the literal date that I want to call when I do my querying in Kubit? Lastly, I can add things like subjects. So these are going to be important when we do paths, funnels, counting unique users, sessions, etc. Clicking this, we're going to auto prompt you to add a user, but this is editable. In our case, we do have a user ID, so we'll add that. And then we can add another subject, maybe on session. No session here, that's okay. I'll actually go in because I want this to instead be device. I can search my device ID. Looks like I still don't have it. Interesting. But that's okay because maybe I can add it later and I can remap this subject whenever I'm ready. Lastly, I can add an install date if I have one to basically let me know when did a user first install my application. I know that this information actually doesn't reside in the fact table, but in a dimension table that I'll add later. So at this point, I can just get rid of it. Now that I've done my required here, I can go in and add additional tables if I need to. Simply navigating back. Actually, before I do that, I'll go ahead and map a few of these columns just so they're available for querying later. If I go back to my tables, I can now add another table. In this case, we're actually going to do a streaming user table. And in this case, we're going to denote it as a dimension. Hit confirm, and now I have my dimension table. As you can see here, I have my install date, which I knew I needed before. I've also got user and device IDs. In this case, because I'm joining this dimension to a fact table, I need to designate how these two tables should be joined together. And we're going to ask you and prompt you to join it on the subject, which in this case is user ID, and select the user ID from the corresponding dimension table. I can add additional joins here. Maybe they're subject, field, or even temporal joins, like letting you look and search for the last ever or last between of a particular event. We're going to keep it simple and just keep it on user ID. As you can see, I can also map additional subjects here. So this is where I can even add things like my device ID and map it as needed. This is also where I can set that install date so that I know for how many days the user has installed the app. I can continue doing this for the various tables. I can even add additional fact tables which will be unioned together. And once I've created my data model, mapped a few fields, I can now go into my fields table and see all of the things that will be available for querying in Kubit. This is where I could even potentially rename things if I need to, add descriptions if I can, and designate if these things need to be filters, breakdowns, or need to be disabled altogether because I've accidentally mapped them. Once all this is agreed upon, you can do a final check viewing the full data model here with designations of what is an event field, a filter, and a breakdown by our different legends here, and also confirm the join logic across the top. As you can see here, we're joining on the fact user ID is equal to the user ID in the streaming user. Once completed, I hit confirm. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes, and then the data is ready and able to be queried within Kubit.